Hey heroes, welcome back. Sir Ezra and Sir Matt breaking down season 1 of the Wheel of Time TV series. We did the first 4 episodes, and we're kind of going off the idea that maybe the first 4 episodes are going to cover the events of The Eye of the World, the first book, and perhaps the second 4 episodes, 5, 6, 7, and 8, are going to cover the Great Hunt. Not really sure about that, and it does seem like, again, you've got events from New Spring and maybe even characters that show up in Book 3, The Dragon Reborn. So I don't really know, but it's kind of the rough, I guess, framework we're looking at. And it seems to be what other people in the Wheel of Time community are saying. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's what we've been talking about. So this episode, right, we do have a title for, correct? Which is episode, this would be episode 5, right? Which would be the first kind of episode of The Great Hunt, Blood of My Blood, correct? Which
Blood calls to blood.
Blood calls to blood, excuse me. Yeah. Which is what we do see happen, right? In some of the early chapters of The Great Hunt, right? You know, it's where they go into that kind of village and Baron sees the blood right on the wall, right? So
yeah, down in the dungeon after Padan Fain escapes, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So now what Ez and I were kind of thinking and trying to make this whole, I guess you're figuring, you know, again, if you're doing 4 episodes of book, so we don't have episode titles for like the episode 8, so we don't know if that is going to be the end of Great Hunt, but in just trying to think about that, you know, the next episode is called The Flame of Tar Valon. So we were trying to think, well, what do you know, where does that get us? Because that's pretty ambiguous. Where does that get us into the book? But I guess the more I'm thinking about it is, you know, when you think about other shows, right, you know, sometimes you will leave characters and you may not see them for an episode, but you know there's something going on. So my guess is actually that the next episode, The Flame of Tar Valon, episode 6, is probably going to be a little bit more focused on Egwene and Nynaeve's kind of training, right? Like when Nynaeve does the trials, right? And she's presented with these things. The accepted, I mean, that you could make that a 4 to 5, you know, I mean, that's could be like a 5 to 10 minute scene, right? Of just that, right? And then you have Egwene too. So I think that it might be a little bit more focused on them. And so then maybe it's kind of split. So we might actually get a ways into the Great Hunt in episode 1 with Rand. And eventually you'll have to, because there'll just be, even for a TV show where you're cutting down characters, there'll just be too many characters and you just have to focus it on them. You know, I think, again, Game of Thrones is what we kind of use as a reference point because it's TV.
Sure.
You know, I mean, there's an episode of Game of Thrones that's an entire battle, and that's it. It's just one battle, right? You think about the battle of the at Castle Black. I mean, that's an entire episode, right? The Battle of the Bastards, it's an entire episode, right? So just kind of what you have to do sometimes in TV to make it work. So I think that maybe what will be a little bit more split is we'll get a lot of Rand and his gang, right, in episode 5, and then a lot more Egwene Nynaeve episode 6, which is also kind of an episode 6 tease, but we'll still save it. We'll still wait.
Yeah,
we'll still do that episode 2, but
right, absolutely. I mean, you could have in episode 5, I guess, going off of, and you know, it's like the further we go along, we're firm in what we kind of think is happening, and then as we get towards the end of this, we're like, oh, where really do, unless
things change, right?
Yeah, if you're ambitiously going to go after that whole second book, The Great Hunt, then I think, you've got to get Rand, Perrin, Matt, Huron, Ingtar, and others all on their journey to retrieve the horn. So, and the dagger. Right. And that could start off with Varen telling the Amyrlin as you know what happened and what was written on the walls. We start to look at prophecy and things like that. So.
Yeah, you know, and then something we talked about a couple episodes ago was the idea of Tom Merrilin maybe not dying, right? Because especially now, if we're going on this maybe 4, you know, this pace of 4 episodes per book, which again could totally be different, but that's just kind of what it's seeming like and what people are kind of saying. Then maybe if you don't have Tom Merrilin die, then, you know, it would be, I mean, to see Tom, you know, die right in episode 2, which is probably when that would take place, and now when Rand runs back into him in a Great Hunt, you know, it's been an entire book, right? I mean, you know, because it's right at the beginning of and a little, like, a third into the Eye of the World, and then you meet back up with them like roughly a third back into A Great Hunt. But if you do it in TV, it's like, well, oh man, it was like this big deal. We thought he died. Well, that was like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
a good point.
It wouldn't feel the same as if you run back into Tom like 2 seasons from now. Like, oh my God, he's still alive. Right? I mean, that's a way bigger difference.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, you almost want to go out of season 1, and if there's a point maybe in the second book where if Tom did stick with them the whole way, and then he sort of out he goes, like, would you really,
right?
By episode, or unless you took some of the events in the Eye of the World and you shifted them to the Great Hunt, maybe he, like you're saying, maybe he is there with them as they go on this journey, and another Murdral shows up and he has to take it out or something. You know what I mean? I like, you could do that, but it does feel weird for him to leave, to be there for episodes 1, 2, maybe 3, gone, and then come back early on in the Great Hunt. You know what I mean? To leave
and what would be right. Yeah. I mean, I think, you'd have to lose him, right, at like just looking at kind of the episode titles, right? Episode 1's called Leave Taking, so we know it probably ends with them leaving Edensfield, is what we'd said. Episode 2 is probably, Shatter Logith, right? And so it's right after that where Tom, dies, right? He doesn't really die, but they think he does.
Yeah.
So if you did that in episode 2 and then he shows back up in episode 5, it just doesn't hit the same way. And so, I mean, I don't know how you would tell the story without him. I mean, a big part of what Rand's doing, here, right, actually where we're at in our podcast right now, right, with Deus Damar, and Tom's a big part of that, right? Like, Rand running back into Tom right now is a big part. So I think it'd just be easier, if you keep him to keep him alive, because now that we're at this part where, okay, now we're at roughly where he would come back in the episode. I mean, it's a big deal. Do you keep him alive like we talked about in episode 2, possibly? Because roughly the time period that we'd be in A Great Hunt right now, his return is a big deal. So how do you do that?
It's going to be, I think you're right. It's definitely going to be different, and they're going to have to, I think, play with that just a little bit, because although one thing that they have, it seems like they're doing, and I think someone said that this might be possible. We're going to do a Logain follow-up here, because we had a great comment on one of our YouTube videos about that. But this idea that you're starting storylines earlier, showing us more, is pretty neat. And there's a lot of backstory on Tom Maryland, so there's things you could do there. It really does depend on who you keep in these groups and who stays with Rand and who stays with Moiraine and so on. So that will be fascinating. I hadn't really even thought all the way through Tom Maryland coming back. But when we started, I hadn't even really thought, oh yeah, like that's actually going to happen pretty soon in the Great Hunt. But it's for a time. It's for a portion of time, and then he goes away for a bit and he'll come back again later. That kind of happens with him. So that's going to be interesting. But I do think, I guess, we'll let you guys in the comments, let us know what you think about Tom Maryland and where you think he's going to exit and reappear and come back, or does he stay with him, the whole time. But I guess for me, we're going to have to stick with that main group and learn about Inktar and the Shanarans, and we're going to have to figure out like where the Horn is, how powerful is Padan Fain, what's he doing to that Murdral. Some scary stuff will take place in this Blood Calls Blood episode 5. And then, we may have to, as Sir Matt said, leave kind of Nynaeve and Egwene up to their own thing. And that kind of happens in the book.
That happens a lot. Yeah, exactly. And that happens in TV a lot, where sometimes it's like, okay, this episode is a lot more focused on this band of people. So it's probably going to happen. So we're probably going to get, I don't think even if it's 4 episodes a book, at some point you're just not going to be able to say, well, you get from this point to this point, and this is the only thing we're looking at. You have to look at the whole series. Can we move this here to save us time here? Can you move that? I mean, it's an enormous jigsaw puzzle. It's not, this is what you get. You draw from this many chapters, figure it out. I mean, it's you're pulling from the whole thing, because I'll save it. I'll save it. Stay tuned for the next episode, because again, you're talking about this pacing with Tom. in the next episode when we're talking Flame of Tarvalin,
Yeah.
we may have to and if it is Nynaeve's trials, right?
Yep.
Is that how early does the Lan Nynaeve love story start? So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that, because if it's episodes 4, which would be roughly you know, when that kind of thing starts, I mean,
Right.
yeah,
how early in season one?
But you just in the book you just read 50 chapters, so it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, so
yeah. No, I see what you're saying, because like that could. I mean, are we going to show? I mean, obviously, where there's going to be hinting and stuff like that, you know, in the first 4 episodes for sure. We're going to have something in episode 4, but you're right. You know, like that is going to be interesting to kind of watch and figure out, like,
because when she hits her trial, you know, there's the little bit at the beginning of the game at a great hunt. So anyway, we will save that for the next time when we talk about what we think is going to happen in episode 6, but just kind of a tease to start getting the wheel turning, right? You know,
absolutely.
Thinking about where we want to go. So
yep. So with that, leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think. It's pretty fascinating just to think about that title, though.
Where we're gonna go.
Yeah, right. Blood calls blood. I just don't know. So, all right. Thanks again. Please subscribe. Please like, and remember that the grave is no bar to our call.